share it, tell everyone. Sideline Sports, y'all come back real soon. Same place, same time, same tune.
Woo!
Cold.
Cold.
Why is it cold? Freezing cold.
This morning it was so cold up here in Parkin. I wore my new hat that I got from Banded Avery. It's cold. It was chilly this morning. Hey, Brenden, you look like Mr. IT genius that you are. It is a Wednesday. Wow, Wednesday, already April 22nd, 2026. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Hey, we got a great show. Will Vandervort, Clemson insider, will check in with us in the first quarter, followed up by Wes Neighbors in the Rocket City, Huntsville, Alabama, Tennessee River Valley, the smartest city in Alabama. I can vouch for that because of people like Philip A. Thompson, Andy Kelly, lots of great ones, Warren Whitaker that I know from there. We've got Oakley McFerrin, the intern from the Plains, coming in. Second half, Dudley, Dawson over in Arkansas covering the Razorbacks, and Vince Ferrara from Big Orange Country, checkerboard orange and white. And we'll bounce all over.
You should see these text messages I get from Rob every day. They're like, emoji, giant text exploding, and then all these great yes. And then there's like, he tells me where they're from. Alabama. It's like the town. I'm like, Rob, I don't care. I mean, I care, but I don't really care where they're from. And, I'm like, and then I try to copy and paste all that stuff in there. I have to take out. Like,
I got you.
The exploding text, the 14. I mean, that's how
I'll simplify it. I will simplify it.
2.5 years later.
Let's do this. Let's go ahead and get started. Bringing Oak. I'll tell you what. The graphics yesterday. That was a cool show yesterday. And Oakley had lunch yesterday with Gabe Kuhn, who was on the show with us, and Dr. Hardgrave, the president of the University of Memphis. And wow, we're going to get him to come on again soon because he was recently on a call with a lot of the top universities in the country. There's a lot happening in college athletics, and I'm going to let him tell you, but it'll make you happy. And I'm going to tell you one thing, Oak. You raise that bar academically, people want to get it. You know what Wilson said? It ain't the kids today that are the problem. It's the parents who want to be the kid's best friend. You got a tough mom, tough dad. I'm tough. Leanne's tough. Audrey's tough. We're all tough on these kids. Oak, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you? Good morning.
Hey, so I was in Birmingham. I was in Little Rock Thursday and Friday, Birmingham Sunday and Monday. I can't go anywhere in parking at the grocery store without seeing people with Steelers Nation. And by the way, Will Vandervort will be on in a second. I'd given him the time, 9:15. He'll be on in a second. He is Steeler Will. That's his Twitter handle. Okay. Oak, going on, and I was talking with Doug Dean. We're going to start this Auburn podcast to add it to this channel. You're going to be working with us. We're going to get you to research each of the 12 opponents that Auburn does. You're going to do a scouting report. You know what it's like looking around the SEC. And we had an offensive line clinic. It was funny to hear Gabe talking, it was funny to hear yesterday him talking about, he goes, I could get out there and geek out and nerd out on those offensive schemes and stuff with Coach Cordelli. If you had a coach and a player. Looking around the SEC, can you name a team that has an offensive line that when they line up are just going to dominate? Does that even exist anymore?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously offensive line play, as we talked with Gabe last week, has just dipped across the country with the lack of continuity among the offensive lines. But, I mean, you look at a team like Georgia who's consistently been able to field a talented offensive line, and not only field a talented one, because there's other teams that have done that similarly to Alabama last year who struggled. Yeah. But Georgia just seems to have an offensive line that's going to maul you in the run game and can hold up in the pass game. And year in and year out, it's a good thing to bet on Georgia's offensive line.
All right. A lot of people love Arch Manning. He's a good kid. But I gotta tell you, it was a man crush last year at Media Days. It was kind of like, he's a 21-year-old kid. I got him. And the name Manning is synonymous with winning. It's football royalty. It really is. He's been there 4 years. Okay, 4 years. You know what they say in the country down there in Murray County, Tennessee? Well, if a dog will bite, he'll do it when he's a pup. Is Arch going to ever be Peyton or Eli or his grandfather?
Well, those are some lofty expectations for him. But in terms of being a successful quarterback in the SEC, I think he's fully capable, especially with how he ended off last season, and he had probably his best game in the bowl game versus a solid Michigan defense. So I mean, they set that man up to succeed like no other. They got 2 of the top 3 running backs out of the portal. They went and got the number 1 overall player and receiver out of the portal. They already have a great receiver in Ryan Wingo. And if their offensive line is above average, I mean, there's no reason for him not to be a top 3 quarterback in the country.
Yeah, and the bottom line is, Wingo, he had the drop issue. We talked about that yesterday. Now you got Cam Coleman out there. All I remember about Cam Coleman is he was on back-to-back losing season crappy teams at Auburn, and he fumbled the ball on a potential game-winning drive in the Iron Bowl. He got a lot of money to leave, but you talk about wide receivers. You don't have to have 5 stars stacked up, do you?
No, I think it helps to have talented receivers, but a lot of that comes down to schematics. There's a plethora of receivers that can do the job. I think that's the most plentiful position we have in college football. And one thing you brought up about Cam Coleman being on a team with 2 losing seasons, this doesn't get talked about enough. Is his biggest games were kind of in smaller moments. In the big games, he really never had an explosive game. So I'll be interested to see how he does playing big time football this year in Texas.
Yeah, exactly. Zebras don't change their stripes, just their watering holes. And I'm not. I said that when he was at Auburn. Same thing about a lot of these guys. All right, I've got to ask you about Ole Miss real quick too. Yancey Porter, Rebel Yell Hotline, talked about the medical issues with Trinidad Chambliss. He's not that big of a guy. This is his 2nd year. I think he made a smart decision coming back. He certainly makes a lot more money than he would if he'd gone to the NFL.
Yeah, I agree. And I think people talk about going to the NFL, all right, you get 1 year older. Well, these NFL GMs want to see him. He came from the D2 level. I mean, they want to see him have more snaps in the SEC. So I think this will ultimately help him. And if he repeats the season he did last year and gets into the semifinals, I mean, he'll have no issue being a first overall pick or a first number 1 round pick. But I think when you're talking about Ole Miss with Trinidad and Kejuan Lacey, there's not a more talented backfield in the country. And even if Pete Golding's not the best head coach, I mean, they should be set up for some success this year.
All right, looking at Florida, Brenden knows that Gator program well, but Brenden doesn't drink the Kool-Aid. He's a truth broker. He is a harsh critic. John Sumrall, he knows the SEC, knows what this league's all about. You think he's going to be more physical, try to run it a lot with Jaden Ball? He's got some pretty good receivers, too. What do you think that mix will be, 60-40 run or 60-40 pass?
Yeah, I mean, with one of the top running backs in the country with Jaden Ball, I think you have to run the ball more, especially with the inexperience at quarterback. I mean, it comes down to whoever ends up winning that quarterback battle and how good they are at passing the ball and not turning the ball over.
Yeah, no, and I don't mean to rush it. We got to bring in Will Vandervort Clemson insider with us. Will, jump in here with us. And I'll tell you, Will, that is completely my fault. I'm driving around and I have my schedule book with me, and I did put you in a spot real quick. We got Steeler Will on here with Steeler Oakley, 2 Steeler fanatics, by the way. Will, let's talk Clemson. I don't mean to be rushing you. We got Wes Neighbors coming up in a minute, but Dabo went 9 guys in the portal. That's 6 more than the previous 5 years combined. How good a class did he bring in? You're muted, I think.
My bad. They're really good. The situation was they really wanted to go out and get a lot of defensive guys. They felt like last year they really just, especially on the back end, were just bad on the defensive side of the football. And so they wanted to go out and really kind of fill those needs in the portal. They did that. They brought in a couple guys, starting with Elliott Washington, the transfer from Penn State. Really like him. He played with Tom Allen back when Tom Allen was a defensive coordinator the year they went to the college football playoff semifinals. And then they got a couple more guys, a couple more safeties that they really like. And Jerome Carter III. They really like what he can do. His dad was a Florida State player. So that was kind of interesting to ask him about, coming to play at Clemson when his dad played against Clemson all the time in his career. And then they got another safety. Excuse me here while I go find them. My apologies. No, my bad. My brain's not working right now, guys. Sorry. But anyway, so they got 3 guys in the back end they feel real good about to add to what they already had. And then they went out and got a couple defensive ends as well to help with that pass rush and provide some depth. And so they feel better about their back end of their defense than they did this time a year ago. Dabo even said at the end of the spring they're in the best shape they've been in defensively than they have in a couple years. So they feel like they did get those answers they wanted in the spring with the transfer portal. But there's still question marks on the offensive side of the football that they didn't answer.
Yeah. Oak, jump in here with some questions on Clemson. Will, don't mean to be rushing. We're going to get you back on next week. My fault. I apologize on the scheduling issue, but you're really, really good.
Well, I appreciate it. Except for my memory right now. It's just not working very good. But
it's all good. Oak, jump in.
Yeah, speaking about Clemson, last year obviously came in with some lofty expectations, and rightfully so with how talented the roster was. Where do you think the disconnect was with last year's team, and how do you think that'll change this year?
The disconnect was I just think some guys weren't hungry, and I think that's why Dabo went out to the portal. He got some guys. I felt like Dabo's whole thing is like the culture. If he does it right, and they build it, and they build up from the time they bring a kid in from high school. By the time he's a junior, he'll be where he needs to be in the developmental program. And he had some guys in there. I mean, Peter Woods, T.J. Parker, those guys are all first-round projections tomorrow in the NFL draft. They got 6 guys that possibly go in the first 2 rounds. So that tells you they weren't wrong. But the problem was those guys just they weren't pushed. So Dabo, I think, and Tom Allen, definitely on the defensive side, learned, hey, let's go into the portal. Let's bring some guys in that can compete, that will come in and will force guys to have to work hard. So, in other words, I think Dabo, now I don't know if he'll tell you this, but I think he was disappointed that some of those guys that he was counting on last year really didn't show up. Like, T.J. Parker did not have the kind of year nobody expected him to have.
Yeah.
He had a great junior season. Everybody thought he was going to come out and just have this excellent senior year, but he really didn't. He only had one good game his entire season. That was against South Carolina, his last game. Where he had 3 sacks and a couple tackles for loss, and he was all over the place. He looked like the T.J. Parker everybody expected. Peter Woods he had an okay season, not a great season. He wasn't dominating people. And then there's just a couple other guys too that was the same thing. I think the only guy that's projected to get drafted, well, I'll say 2 guys that really came to play were Antonio Williams and Avion Terrell. They had really good seasons and did, I think, what we all expected them to do. Everybody else was kind of like, kind of hum and kind of just went through the motions. And I think that was the major problem that happened for Clemson last year. They just didn't have other guys pushing other guys. And when that happens, you get complacent, and complacency sets in. And I think that's what happened with Clemson last year.
To give you a metaphor here, kind of cruel, but in the Wild Kingdom, the best time to take out a lion is after he just ate because he's full. Right. The most feared creature in the ocean. It's not the humpback whale. It's not the killer whale. It's the great white shark because they're never satisfied. Mm-hmm. So get you a team full of great white. Real quick, and I got to ask you about the culture at Clemson. Dabo plays 4 out of 5 years, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 for the national title, wins 2 of them. Mm-hmm. He's got his job, I think, as long as he wants it, but he doesn't want to stay someplace if he's not succeeding. What are the expectations among that fan base, which is among the most passionate in the Western civilization?
Well, like any fan base, if you're not winning, they get antsy, and so especially when especially when they're used to winning. And the Clemson's won at a high level, and so fans expect that, and they expect they should be competing right there where everybody else is. Because you look at the teams that were there when Clemson was going on its run. Georgia's still up there, Ohio State's still up there, Alabama's still up there. So Clemson fans are like, why aren't we up there? And so there is some discontent. I won't say his seat is hot, but I'll say it's warm. And I think Dabo's got to perform this year. I think Dabo knows they have to perform this year. Yeah. If not, then this time next year, I don't know what we'll be talking about. We might be talking about a new era in Clemson football. Not saying that Clemson's going to, like you said, not saying Clemson's going to fire Dabo, because I don't think that would be the case. But Dabo may say, hey, look, it's not working here anymore. I'll just go on and move on and go do something else. That wouldn't surprise me. So I'm just going to say that, his son, his youngest boy, Clay, graduates this year. He's, all of his boys have played with him. And, I think that's something you got to pay attention to. And his other son now started his own college coaching career over at Samford, and Drew Sweeney. And, he's got 2 boys that are married, a third that's engaged. from not too much longer, Rob, before grandkids start coming in. Hey, there's other things in life than football, and I wouldn't be surprised if Dabo Swinney gets to that point eventually.
Yeah. Oh, jump in here. How about that hoodie he's wearing? You got anything that looks like that?
I got one similar.
Yeah. I love it. All right, jump in here.
Yeah, with Christopher Vizinia, I mean, obviously a talented quarterback who's been there for about 4 years out of Birmingham. Haven't seen much of him since he's been there sitting behind Cade Klubnik, but can you talk a little bit about him and what to expect out of him, and also how helpful it is to have receivers like TJ Moore and Bryant Wesco?
Yeah, and they got a couple good freshmen too. Naeem Burrows has come in and had a really good spring. He's pushing for playing time. So they got a couple more guys that are actually doing well. I think the good thing for Vizina is he's got somebody pushing him. Freshman Tate Reynolds has moved up to number 2 on the depth chart. And Dabo Swinney says the only thing Christopher Vizina has is he's in pole position to start fall camp. Other than that, it's a wide open competition between those two. They separated from the others that were in the competition. And so now it's a matter of, do they go with the experienced guy, or do they go with the young, talented freshman who, by the way, if you remember this name, Rob, I know you'll remember a guy named Kyle Parker. Reminds me of a lot like Kyle Parker, former baseball player too, just like Kyle Parker. And, they said he can come play both sports if he wants to. So I don't know when that's going to happen, but he can spin it. He's about 6'1", about the same size Kyle Parker was. Got that big body build. He's about 220 pounds. So he's solid. Can run. Got great speed. Chad Morris. He fits the Chad Morris offense, which Chad Morris came back in. He's the kind of guy that can run that quarterback power, which Chad Morris loves to run in that system. So he kind of fits it a little bit more than Vizina. Now Vizina's a big guy too, 6'4", 225 pounds himself, but he's not as fast as Tate Reynolds, but he's been there for a while. He's had he sat behind Cade Klubnik. He's did his time. He said I could go anywhere and play. He's like, I know I can. He said, but I love Clemson. I wanted to stay at Clemson, and this is what me and Coach Swinney talked about when I was recruited, that I would have to sit for a couple years. They thought it would be 2, not 3, but he's like, I love Clemson so much I didn't care. He says, I got a couple years left, and I'm going to make the most of it.
Yeah. All right. Well, look, we're going to wrap up. We're going to bring in Wes Neighbors. We're going to get you back on next. Let's do this again next week, because I want to get more into the ACC, the no Canes. Everybody's going to be chasing them, it looks like. So you're getting competition in that league. Tell people how they can follow you. You do some great work in the podcast world. And in today's world, you go in someone's house, you look at their library. That tells you a lot about how intelligent they are. Now you look at their selection. Where do you consume your podcasts?
Yeah, you can see my library behind me. It's mostly about football.
The pictures.
But no, they can find me at Steeler Will on X, and then also you can find me, at the Clemson Insider on X as well as Clemson Insider on Facebook, and then our podcast, Believe in Clemson, you can find on YouTube as well and Facebook, and we got it on all of our Clemson Insider sites as well. So. Just go over to Clemson Insider. You'll find me. I'm always over there doing work. We got a bunch of great guys. We got a great content. We do recruiting. We do Clemson football, Clemson basketball, baseball, anything Clemson. We got it covered all the way down, even transfer portal now, because that's the thing now. So I don't know how I guess it goes in with recruiting. I don't know, but I let Jason Priester, our recruiting guy, handle that stuff. So anyway, you can find us. You can find all my work at the Clemson Insider, and then also Believe in Clemson podcast.
All right, as soon as Wes comes in, we're going to bring him in. I think he's having some issues with his screen. But, Oak, I know you got another question for Will. But this SEC-ACC battle, it's kind of been pushed to the side because of the Big Ten, whatever. But I love college football. And we have talked this entire thing, no NIL and no portal. And Oakley keeps the watch going. Do we see a student athlete on campus? Okay, now, but we'll let you go. We got Wes coming in, but I want to talk about that. If there have been any sightings on campus of students, we'll get into that next week. Kind of like UFOs, okay? So, Steeler Nation forever. We'll see you next week.
Go Steelers.
Go Steelers.
I love it. If anyone can name that fourth coach, in Steeler history, that's always a trivia question. Wes, thank you so much. When I'm driving around, like as you know, you're trying to schedule shows and do different things. you can't write while you're driving. At least it's against the law in Tennessee and Alabama. And I was in Birmingham Sunday and Monday. I would have gotten pulled over for that. But thanks for joining us. Let's talk some Alabama football. You are all about Alabama. You know the SEC, but you know the big picture of college football like very few people. Thanks for sharing your time with us.
Oh, good to be here. Had my little blocker on. I
Okay.
didn't know what was up there. My screen was black. I was sitting there, what are they talking about?
Yeah.
Anyway, so
Yeah. Well,
good
I
to be on.
asked Lauren Smith one time, what's the most embarrassing moment on the radio with Larry Munson? He goes, Rob, you know how Lauren talks. She goes, I once did an interview there before the Georgia-Florida game, and I forgot to turn the mic on. And Larry goes, Lauren, what do you got? He goes, you got nothing. He's just talking about it. But
So we used to listen to Larry Munson after going to whatever game we did with my father. He loved Larry Munson and listening to the Georgia. We just listened to Georgia because of Larry Munson.
Absolutely. And I think about John Forney. This Alabama football game brought to you by the fine folks at Bromberg's Jeweler, all over the great state of Alabama. Roll Tide.
See, we all understand radio more than anybody because that's all you could listen to, right? You wasn't on TV.
Yeah.
So the stands out like it was yesterday. We're driving home from I don't remember what game Alabama played, but I remember listening to Herschel's first game at Tennessee.
Yeah.
And it was unbelievable, the Larry Munson and the job he did in that.
I had my little white transistor radio, and hold on. I still have this radio from when I was a kid, this little white transistor radio. I'm at the Liberty Bowl Stadium in 1980. Georgia is trailing 15-2. They got a safety. I'm listening to AM 750 WSB Atlanta, Larry Munson. I'll never forget. He goes, now they're going to try the little freshman from Wrightsville, single A football in Georgia. We'll see what he can do. No one else has been able to run against this Tennessee defense all day. And here's the carry. Oh my God, those thighs. You know, you can't get better. Oakley's dad, Oakley's probably been to 35 Alabama games. His father's from Tuscaloosa. You know, your dad knows who Wes Neighbors is. He knows who his father, Billy Neighbors, was. He was in Coach Bryant's first recruiting class. West was in his last recruiting class. But, jump in here with some Alabama questions with Wes Neighbors in the Rocket City.
Yeah. I mean, nice to meet you, first of all.
Nice to meet you, Oakley.
We saw the spring game. Tell us a little bit about the quarterback battle between Austin Mack and Keelan Russell. And I kind of want your opinion on who you think's going to win that. And then also speak about the receiving core and with Noah Rodgers going down, how impactful is it going to be for Ryan Williams to step up early in the season this season?
Well, so I think Ryan Williams has stepped up already. I went to a couple spring practices. I mean, he's changed his game. He's gotten bigger. I actually talked to him at the concert Saturday. His whole attitude's changed. I think he's grown up a lot. You know, all the attention. Last year wasn't a good year, obviously, for him. Had a lot of drops. I think the most in the country, the most drops in the country. But he's an elite athlete, and he's special. We saw that his freshman year. We saw that a little bit last year. So very, very excited about not only him. Morgan, the freshman, is an unbelievable player. He showed out. I think, Noah getting hurt is unfortunate. He's a really good player, but I think they're good everywhere. I think they got an elite team everywhere but the offensive line. Now they have good young players, and can those guys come together and give the quarterbacks time? That's huge. I mean, that was the problem last year, until Ty was unbelievable and had to be until he got hurt. And then again, after the Missouri game, he wasn't the same quarterback because he wasn't practicing. I mean, he was beat up, and you saw that all through the year. I think, but the two quarterbacks, what I found interesting is obvious who the best quarterback in the spring was. I mean, in the spring game. I mean, it's Keelan Russell. He looked unbelievable. He was throwing dimes all over the field. And what was interesting is what Coach DeBoer said after the game. It was almost like I don't think Keelan Russell was the best quarterback throughout the spring. I think he had an unbelievable 8A game, and it showed what that kid can do. But I think Austin Mack was leading until then. And if you watch what the head coach said after, he was almost making excuses because I guess the latter got hurt. And then Keelan took over, took most of the reps, and had an unbelievable day. All I know is the assistant coaches in Tuscaloosa call Keelan the one. I mean, they said it since last year. He's the one. So he reminds you a lot of way Bryce used to play. He's a little bigger than Bryce. Well, he's a lot bigger than Bryce.
Yeah.
But he can throw any arm angle. Both of them, I think, are really good quarterbacks. And I was impressed with the young quarterbacks. Quarterback's not the issue at Alabama. It's protecting them. And if the offensive line doesn't get better this year, we might see more than two. I mean, they have to be better, and us to be able to run the ball. I am the running back. I think we're vastly improved, as improved as I've seen any team. The young kid from Huntsville, Texas, looks unbelievable. I mean, he flashed in the scrimmage I went to. He flashed in the 8A game. He made people miss. He has great vision. And we're not even talking about one of the top, some people think the best back in the country. I saw him in the first scrimmage. He got hurt after the first 2 or 3 series. He's special. I just think with competition, the whole thing, though, in the end, is the running backs have to protect the quarterback, too. Last year, it was awful. You saw a couple times in the spring game, it was awful. That's where they have to improve as well, because there are only 5 offensive linemen. If they rush 6, somebody has to pick that guy up or more. And that's what Oklahoma, that's how they beat us in the first game, is we couldn't pick up the blitz. Our backs couldn't pick up the blitz. And then when you do, run the ball against the blitz, you got to, there's only 10 blockers on every play. And you take the quarterback, then there's only 9 blockers. So there's 2 people on block. Alabama did a poor job of getting the other 2 on the other side of the field. And then when they did and made one guy miss, the running backs couldn't make him miss. I think this year they'll be able to do that, and that'll be the difference.
Yeah, and I know, Oakley, you've got to go to class in a second, but one more question, Oakley, on Alabama, if you can, because that's a great answer. I've heard a lot about Austin Mack, but Keelan played 11 series, and that was very impressive.
Yeah, and last year when he came in, he threw dimes. He throws dimes. He's Austin Mack is athletic, but not as athletic as Keelan Russell. And anyway, how did a guy that grew up in Tuscaloosa, though, have a Cam Newton jersey on his wall?
I didn't grow up in Tuscaloosa. My dad's from Tuscaloosa.
Oh, okay.
He was at Alabama when Duncan was there. And, like Memphis West, as you know, has a lot of Alabama folks, a lot of them.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I agree with what you said. I think the MVP for the season has got to be running backs in the running game for Alabama. But obviously, Coach DeBoer, following Coach Saban, had some lofty expectations coming in, probably some unreasonable expectations to some extent. What do you think he needs to do? How many games? Does he need to win a playoff game or just make the playoffs to not be on the hot seat?
I think the hot seat thing with Kalen DeBoer is the most overrated thing ever. I think that it's everybody inside the university is more than happy with what's going on. They're competing. The time of stacking players is over. I mean, the last 3 years, the Big Ten's won the national championship, but Indiana, I don't think that was just a masterful job by Indiana.
Yeah.
Ohio State bought their national championship. They spent twice as much as anybody that last year. I mean, the year they won it. And then Michigan beat Alabama in overtime the year before. It's going to be interesting to see the draft and see how many Big Ten guys and SEC guys get drafted. The number one thing Alabama has to do is just keep recruiting like they're doing. And last year they've been in the top 5 the last 4 years. We don't want to be Auburn, right? That keeps changing coaches and they were going to playoffs and they were winning with Malzahn, and then what's happened since they got rid of Malzahn?
Chaos.
Have they had a winning season yet?
No.
Nope. Revolving door.
I mean, I watched the Clemson guy. You know what? The worst thing I ever had with Clemson is get rid of Dabo Swinney. They'll find out. It's not, the grass is not always seems great. There's nobody as good as the second string quarterback on every football team.
Right.
And people think the change will do well. I don't agree.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm with you.
Coach DeBoer, who are we going to hire instead of Coach DeBoer? Yeah. He's been in a national championship game. They should have made the playoffs the year before, in my opinion. They had one of the toughest schedules last year and made the playoffs, although some people didn't agree. But then they beat Oklahoma at Oklahoma. Didn't do well against Indiana, but who did, right? Yeah. I mean, 2 of the last 3 years we've been beaten by the national champion. And then we didn't get an opportunity the year before and played the toughest schedule. What I think we ought to be talking about, though, really, is what's about to happen. I mean, we had Auburn's athletic director on yesterday, and basically they said they're going to quit playing any small schools and might even go to all SEC schedule. And there won't be an SEC championship game. And they're all in going to 16 and 24 teams, which I think is horrendous. He said the current, he almost sounded like he was going to break out in tears talking about how college football and what's happening in college football is unsustainable, and we'll see more change in the next 3 years than we had the last 3 years, and that's the scary thing to me.
Yeah, it is. Look, I know both of y'all, it's my fault on the scheduling this morning to have to rush everybody, but I will say 2030 is when the TV rights stuff comes up. So in 2028, you can count on this pretty much. There'll be some shuffling of conferences. I think there'll be some schools leave some Power 4 conferences to go somewhere else. Oakley, great stuff as always. Stay on if you can, but if you got to go to class, studies first. And remember, when Wes and I were in college, the only thing student athletes got extra was a boxed lunch coming out of the stadium after a football game for the ride home, wasn't it, Wes?
Well, I don't think we always got that.
All right, Wes, how do they follow you in the Rocket City? And Oakley, you got a fraternity brother or two from Huntsville, but how do they follow you in the Rocket City? Because I got the app on my phone, and I love what y'all do. Y'all are football, basketball. You cover it like kudzu and cotton, and I love it.
Yeah. So it's the WZZN on your Apple app or your Google Play Store. You can go there, download it for free, and listen any time of the day. We have 4 great shows. They're all local. We have the best recruiting analyst there is in Drew DeArmond.
Yes,
and
we do.
The whole thing is we're having fun.
Yeah, y'all do. All right, we'll do it again next week. I appreciate so much you sharing your time with us. Have a great day.
Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you.
Hey, you bet. Oakley, have a great one in class as well. Vince Ferrara, the sports animal up in Knoxville, joins us right now. Man, I tell you what I love is the preparation. Proper planning and preparation prevents piss poor performance on game day. Vince Ferrara, Dudley, Dawson, welcome aboard. By the way, Dudley, I met Chuck Dicus. He said to tell you hello. He goes, I ain't seen old Dudley, as they say in the country, folks, in a month of Sundays. Dudley, how you doing?
I'm doing good, and I hope
a month of Sundays.
That's a nice little country saying. I know plenty of those.
Yeah. Well, I will say this. I was up there. There's about 60 people at the Hot Springs Country Club for this event I was at with Jim McClellan. And I'm going to tell you, God, those people, they love the Razorbacks. I mean, you talk about what a terrible place to live in retirement or period is Hot Springs, Arkansas. I mean, golf courses everywhere, horse tracks, mountains, lakes, scuba diving. And of course, it's not too far from Benton, Arkansas, where they filmed the movie Sling Blade. reckon what you got good to eat in there? Mm-hmm. He goes, well, we got French fries, French fried potatoes. Mm-hmm. How much you want for them? Well, the medium are 60 and the large are 75. I reckon I'll have me some of the big ones. Dudley.
We've hit them all today, boys. We've got Larry Munson. We've gotten. Rob ate the whole bag of gummies today. I don't know what's wrong, and I'm not responsible today.
I'm excited because
clearly
I got the best. But you should have seen the graphics yesterday. You have to pinch yourself and what he does behind the scenes, making this thing happen. But thank you, all of you, for watching, sharing, and subscribing. Dudley, let's talk Razorbacks. Those folks I was with bleed Arkansas blood. They love what's going on up there. And I'm going to tell you, they're into baseball like Cardinals fans are into baseball.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of bloodletting over the last few years here via football, and so there's some excitement. The big spring game and event is Saturday, and a lot of stuff going on there. Justin Moore concert, and look at the football team. 2 close practices this week, getting ready for it, and I'm sure that it'll be fun to watch, especially for those who haven't been able to be around practice and get an opportunity to see the 50 of the new 60 players that will be on this football team.
Yeah, it's going to be insane. Vince, I'm sitting there looking at your notes, proper planning and preparation. You and Daphne do some serious planning, and I got a Daphne the dog too. But man, Will Ament, I'll let you take it. But this is the kind of stuff. John David Badur, a lot of Vol fans go, Brown, this is the one day of the week if you live in Memphis, you get to hear about the Vols.
Well, appreciate it. Always awesome to be on with you guys. And I'm impressed. I mean, you guys are growing so much. It looked like Family Feud or the Brady Bunch in the beginning, man. We had the 9. We're going to get 9 people on at the same time at one point.
Where's Paul Lynn?
Steve, we're going to play.
Where's Paul Lynn on Hollywood Squares and Jonathan Winters over there like, Jonathan Winters, by the way, the funniest comedian ever to live. He was the inspiration for Robin Williams. And that night, the two of them came out together on The Tonight Show. Go back and watch it. It's epic. But Vince, the checkerboard orange and white bedroom is, I love your background. I love yours too, Dud.
Man, I appreciate it. So we'll go one at a time. We don't want to hog everything up or bring everything in together. We'll start with the transfer portal. Man, Tennessee basketball, it's almost nothing ever overtakes football, but the portal has been so hot and heavy, and there's been so much news almost every day that it really is right there close to football in terms of being top of mind because Rick Barnes is a program that went to the Elite Eight 3 consecutive years, and they only had 2 returning players. So everybody else either out of eligibility or hit the portal. So that was a surprise, but you know what? It's the state of basketball right now. And there are plenty of others in college basketball that are dealing with remaking their roster. And so Tennessee had a plan. And, man, they have absolutely crushed it in the portal. They brought in 5 guys in the portal, including the one piece they probably needed the most and the most recent in Terrence Hill Jr. from VCU. You guys probably remember him going off for 34 on North Carolina when they rallied from down 19 in the first round. He also put up 17 against Illinois. He's exactly what they needed. And so they've addressed scoring. They've addressed having threats all throughout the floor. The point guard position, having more of a true point guard in Hill, even though he still, is a scoring point guard as well. You got outside shooting and Tyler Lumbley coming over from Belmont and Day Ames from Cal, who is a guy that plays with toughness and can handle the ball and play point. Also, Miles Rubin, who's basically taking Felix Okpara's place in a shot blocker, a rim runner, one of the better shot blockers in college basketball, and another guy you can lob dunks to, and it has some athleticism as well. So they're in on a number of bigs. They're trying to add to the post right now, and in on some of those bigs that are out there, including the 7-2 player from Cincinnati. But they have 4 players from the high school ranks, including one that they just added, which is crazy, from Murfreesboro at Providence Christian Academy, and Chris Washington Jr. So 2 returning players, 4 high school players, 5 portal additions, and they're not done. I mean, still out there is Juke Harris from Wake Forest, who's number 2 or 3 rated player in the portal. Everybody seems to want him. And then what will happen with Nate Ament? That's still TBD. We have Paul Biancardi on from ESPN this morning, and my partner John Wilkerson asked him, "So, what do you think about the possibility of Ament coming back?" He said, "Well, you got a better chance of me shaving my head and my hair off than Nate Ament coming back." And he's Italian; he's got a beautiful head of hair. That's not happening. So I think that was a way to kind of maybe slow the roll on, because that's been growing.
Yeah.
More and more people, hoping that Nate Ament comes back if he doesn't end up getting the right feedback from the NBA.
I love it. Hey, we're going to be in Tampa middle of July for SEC Media Days.
Yep.
You're going to be coming down there. See Mama Ferrara's.
Yep.
I'm going to tell you what, I'm so fired up about going down there to Tampa. Brenden and I and Audrey's going to come down there too. We're going to have a blast. Dudley, Hogs, you're at Busch Stadium right now. Cardinals. I love these backgrounds.
Game starting at 11:15. So
there you go. It's Hot Dog Wednesday.
Start piling in here in any minute.
Yeah. Hey, someone was telling me about the Braves used to have a businessman's game on like Wednesday or Thursday. And there was some guy down there with it wasn't his wife, let's just say. And the guy said, "Well, it looks like people are bringing their daughters to the games today, and they're down there on Wednesdays at the games." But the businessman special, dollar hot dogs and stuff like that, you cannot beat baseball in person. But what else is going on up in Arkansas with Ryan Silverfield, with John Calipari? He's certainly becoming the spokesman, and a good one too, for what's going on in college athletics.
Yeah, I would say with basketball first, obviously Coach Cal's gotten great guards again. Got those through the high school ranks and picked up Jeremiah Wilkerson in the transfer portal. Cooper Bowser is forward from Furman that he also has added. Some guys out the door, and the big thing left here is to get big guys. And it seems to be that Coach Cal is waiting out the market, I guess, would be the thing to say. They've got a couple of really, including the Cincinnati guy that Vince mentioned. They're in on him and several other big guys, but that hadn't been taken care of. So you've got a few people grumbling and all that. But the guy knows how to recruit. I think he'll be okay. When all is said and done, I think Malik Thomas has probably climbed into the back end of the first round and is probably going to go now and end up with a very nice NBA career. As far as football, as we said, they've got that game this weekend. Looking forward to seeing a lot of that, and it's quite the event here this weekend. It's strange. The only team not playing here this weekend is baseball. They're playing at Missouri, but it's a day when Fayetteville will be not that easy to drive around.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so. Old school, AM radio only. Vince, what's the greatest game you've ever listened to on the radio, college football wise? As a young lad, as an adolescent, or as we're in the last year?
Gosh, college football wise, I mean, honestly, when I was younger, growing up in Tampa, it wasn't as much about college football. It was, I got a little bit older that I started to appreciate college football and what it was, because we weren't in a college town. Where I went to school, we didn't have football at USF. That came in after me. Now, there was, the Gators and the Seminoles and the Hurricanes, so there was a lot of that. I'd say probably, and I don't know if I was listening on the radio, but the best college football game I can remember as a kid was the Miami-Nebraska Orange Bowl, and how that came down to the wire. So that might have been one where on TV, but I remember listening to the USFL in my room late at night, and the Lee Corso and the Orlando Renegades, listen to those games. I really had a great appreciation for play, but yeah, how about that? What's that, Brent?
I have that USFL football somewhere.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
I
wore that thing out. That was a great ball, by the way.
Man, the USFL was so much fun. Those
I
logos
love
were
that
so
league,
cool.
man. Bring that back, bro. I love the USFL. Was it the Bandits?
Yeah, Tampa Bay Bandits, man.
Bandits.
Memphis Showboats.
Memphis Showboats, Birmingham Steins. The Bucks were the Bandits were more popular than the Bucks, because it was just a horrible time for the Bucks for sure.
Yeah. Well, what's crazy in Memphis, who the defensive coordinator for the Showboats was? He lived in Logan Young's back house, brother Bill Oliver. And on Sundays at Walgreens, they sold the Schaefer Light and the Schmidt Sport Pack on Sundays for sale. And I would take a backpack, and I was trying to walk in through security, and I didn't make it. And so I had to take it outside, and we threw it up over the short end of the stadium. 48 ice cold beers. We went to those games and watched Reggie White and those guys. Pepper Rogers was the coach, Dudley. You probably went to a game or two. And this little white radio has survived being thrown against the wall more than once after a frustrating loss for any of my favorite teams.
Tennessee Vol, Reggie White, one of the greats.
Absolutely. As far as my college football greatest game listened to on the radio, wasn't on a transistor radio. It was on a tractor. My dad let me go to school Monday through Friday, let me play sports Monday through Friday. Then my butt was on the tractor on Saturday, earning my keep at 12 and all that. And so I listened to a lot of games over the radio there. And I can remember stopping in the middle of the field one time and, getting off my tractor and Dad came over. What's wrong? Is something going on? I said, they ran on third and 6. I just don't understand it, stuff like that. So my memories of college football on Saturdays until I got to be a teenager were tractor listening to football, which still was a good thing.
Yeah, and I love it. I salute to all the farmers. Robert Hill, one of our members, they farm over here, a lot of land. They get on those tractors. They've got the TVs going now and the radios. So you got to love college football wherever you can catch it. Vince, you got some more stuff on the agenda here. We'll go rapid fire back and forth. Vince Ferrara, Dudley Dawson, EP Brenden Martin on a Wednesday.
Yeah, in terms of the NFL draft, there's been a lot of discussion nationally just over the last couple of days of Jermon McCoy's medical. McCoy, he could very well, just based on talent and ability, be a top 10, top 15 pick. But unfortunately, there is concerns about cartilage in his knee where they said they used a plug that might need to be replaced, a bone plug to repair a cartilage defect in his knee. It was not his torn ACL. That is healed properly, but I guess this plug has been sort of red flagged by some teams. Now, everyone's got different tolerance levels on the risk they're willing to take. We had one of the guys that fills in, former Tennessee linebacker, former Dallas Cowboy linebacker, Dudley probably remembers, and Kevin Simon. He fills in on our show all the time. He was a guest this morning. He was a scout with the Dallas Cowboys, and he told a story about Miles Jack and how people are kind of comparing Jermon McCoy's medical popping up late and concerns about his long-term future with Miles Jack. And the Cowboys took Miles Jack completely off their board. And he said they were actually kind of lax in terms of their medical and taking more risks than maybe some other teams did. And he came completely off their board. Now, that doesn't mean everyone's taking McCoy off their board. It's just now you're starting to have people move him down in the mocks and project him either at the bottom of the first round, even though he's maybe the one or first or second best corner in this draft, or even in the second round altogether, which would be a shame because he missed all of last year. And there's still this concern, maybe long-term with his medical. But, if he goes in the first round, if Colton Hood goes in the first round, and a lot of mocks have him as well, it'd be the first time Tennessee's had 2 first-round picks since 2010. Eric Berry and Dan Williams went in the first round back then. Eric Berry, of course, was
Dan Williams, my friend from Memphis, went to East High School. He's a member of the Touchdown Club. 6'3", 338, all muscle, I might add.
Yeah, he big boy for sure. And so that's what Tennessee's trying to accomplish. If they can get McCoy and Hood both in the first round, Brazel kind of thought as a second-day pick, and then the Vols could have a couple of others maybe go in the day 3. So 5 or 6, probably for Tennessee with the possibility of 2 in the first round. But the McCoy discussion has been taken off with the NFL Network and ESPN's reports over the last couple of days.
Yeah, this is something where I throw my objectivity out the window. Everybody knows that watches the show knows I'm Cowboys, Cardinals, Celtics, and I kept seeing Jermon McCoy as a possible pick for Dallas at 12. It seemed like a good pick, but this has been giving me some grief or being wary of things. I feel sorry for the young man, but they got to find somebody at 12, and really, at 20, if they keep it, that they know can be on the field next year, because they absolutely sucked on defense last year. I mean, that's not breaking any scoops there. So I hope good for the young man. But man, I hate these things that come out at the end that sometimes are not valid. Sometimes they're agents and teams and all that pushing things down. I think the young man's going to have a great career, but he's probably going to be easing into things next year. That's just how it is. As far as up in Arkansas, we're sitting around wondering when Julian Neal, Taylor Green are going to go, probably second or third day. Arkansas is going to have several people drafted, but the fact that they are not having a ton of them is exactly what you expect from a 2-10 team.
Yeah. Well, and Vince and Dudley and Brenden, everybody watching, you can date yourself on this one, but there was an old TV commercial that was on during the Tennessee football, the Johnny Majors show, Phil Fulmer show. The Vols always look better on a Philco. Is Philco still in business, by the way, Vince? Are they still a sponsor of Big Orange Athletics?
I can't speak to. I'm usually at the game, so I can't speak to all of the sponsors. But doesn't sound recent, familiar. But maybe they are. I'm not exactly sure.
All right. Well, you had some great stuff about spring practice takeaways up in Knoxville.
Yeah, and obviously the biggest question mark was the quarterback position. That would be one of the questions that has not been answered as of yet, is what does Tennessee have at quarterback? George McIntyre, leader in the clubhouse going into spring practice because he had an extra year in the program. He's just a redshirt freshman this year, just 2 games played, going up against Faison Brandon, a 5-star true freshman who is more physically ready, but doesn't have the year in the system. So I think Faison Brandon probably had a little bit better camp, a little bit more consistent camp than George McIntyre, but it's not like McIntyre was terrible either. Yeah. Just didn't see anything that kind of really wowed you and put one guy over the top. Now, I think Brandon probably closed the gap on McIntyre, maybe made it an even race going into fall camp. And that's, I guess, kind of newsworthy that a true freshman and a redshirt freshman are your 2 guys realistically competing for a starting quarterback job, at a good SEC program in Tennessee. So what does that mean for this team? Well, it means they better be good in a lot of other areas. And probably the biggest question that was answered is the defense and the adjustment so quickly in Jim Knowles' first year. A lot of really good pieces on defense. Still TBD on how good that pass rush in front 7 will be. But, man, they're super deep at linebacker. They're much better in the secondary of both corner and safety. And they've got young talent that just needs to come into its own. So, third wide receiver question that has not been answered as of yet. A couple of second-year players competing there. I think they're in a good spot at running back with 3 guys there. Offensive line, David Sanders Jr., I'm telling you, David Sanders Jr., future first-round pick. He moved to left tackle, a former 5-star.
Yeah.
That guy is bigger, stronger, faster, smarter, knows what he's doing, leader. He's a stud.
Sounds like Steve McQueen and the $6 million man. Bigger, faster, stronger. Hey, and he's from the Queen City, Charlotte, North Carolina, Mecklenburg County. All right, Dudley, he's been gone about 20 years, Paul Eels. What a great voice he was. Touchdown, Arkansas. Remember that YouTube video when he goes in the locker room? Houston Nutt's the coach, and he does that. The team goes crazy. What else is going on up in Fayetteville? And by the way, over 34,000 students up there. Chancellor Robinson building hell of a school up there. And you get football going, 78,000 plus. They pack them into those games. And by the way, the luxury seating at Reynolds Razorback Stadium. By the way, have the rights been bought by anyone yet?
It's my understanding they have, but they haven't announced it.
Dawson Field, is that what it is?
yeah. Dawson seat. Might be what it is. Just like at Tennessee, the quarterback has been a lot of people wonder about KJ or AJ. That sounds like some wrestling match on Raw on Monday nights, but that's going to go into the fall camp and into the season. Maybe between those 2 guys. I'm not going to be disingenuous and act like I've gone to so many football practices that I know, who's leading there. But I will tell you is that they're excited about that room. not only those two, but if some, misfortune happened, they feel like they've got a couple of other guys there that transferred in that they feel like could get them through games. That's not what you want to do, but get them through games. But I go back to the big thing here is Arkansas did a tremendous job, or maybe I should say Coach Silverfield did a tremendous job in coming in here that first day and getting two big-time defensive tackles. And both of those guys look the part, look great, are going to give Arkansas a better opportunity not only this year but down the line to be able to manage the line of scrimmage. And that's been an issue here these last few years, whether it's on the offensive side or defensive side. And everybody going to look at the stars and sexy wide receivers and quarterbacks and all that. But Bill Keaty, my great coach at Newport, Arkansas, it was always about in the trenches. And that's going to be where Arkansas has to make the biggest push. They got some guys. Now let's see how they fare against competition other than themselves.
Yeah, we love acronyms and initials. AILOS, Line of Scrimmage League. Vince, quickly, we got about a minute and a half. Baseball series this weekend up in Tennessee and Alabama.
Yeah, Alabama and Tennessee. The Alabama and Vanderbilt are the two permanent opponents for Tennessee in baseball. So they've already lost to Vanderbilt. Now they got to win on their home field against Alabama. Alabama, part of that logjam. There are 10 teams in the middle of the pack in the SEC standing between 10-8 and 8-10. And Bama 9-9, Tennessee at 8-10. Got to win on your home field. Second straight home series. They lost to Ole Miss last weekend. Alabama can pitch really well. This is a very important series for Tennessee as we're now into the back half of SEC play.
Guys,
Arkansas lost to Georgia 26-14.
Yeah.
That was
a baseball game. That was a baseball game. It wasn't a football game. There was some talk that if they had scored twice, that they might have gone for two both times.
You are correct, sir. Hey, Dudley, Dawson, Vince Ferrara. Folks, you young, aspiring journalists, watch what these guys do. Watch what Brenden does. We have the best show, the best audience, blessed in more ways than you can count. Thank you all so much. We'll do it again next week.
Thanks.
Guys, let me say this too. Get out, support our sponsors. You can find them all, sidelines.live. Landers, Ford, Poplar, and Houston Levy, where Germantown and Collierville come together. Ask for Brad Bellamy. Be simple. Also, Mount Moriah and I-240. Y'all all have been going to that location for a long time. That store is growing fast. It's going as fast as kudzu. Also, great folks at Hewlett and Dunn Boot and Clothing Company on the historic square in Collierville, Tennessee. You want to look your best, get in shape, and they got the best looking clothes. Filson, Barber, STS, Duckhead, and they've got Old South, Devil Dog jeans, everything you want. HewlettandDunn.com. Go on the website, and they'll order and deliver anywhere. InfoPros.com and MyTown Roofing. Most often, we see the face of Christ in the least among us. Have a blessed day, everybody, and find excuses to win. We'll see you tonight on this channel.
Shall come back real